Hi, everyone. We are back with another episode. And what I want to talk about today is really my journey with my relationship to food and dieting and fasting and all the things, and kind of give my perspective on how we eat and how to eat and the best ways to eat. And again, first and foremost, I want to caveat this by saying that to me, and what I have found on my own journey is that there's not a one size fits all for all people. It seems kind of even ridiculous that we would think that there's not one diet, not one style of eating that is going to work for every single body. And if we start the conversation there, I think it loosens things up a lot, because then it becomes less righteous, or that your way is the right way, or how you relate to these kinds of things is the way to do it, and everybody else is wrong. Like, if we can collapse some of the immediate disagreement on how you should feed and fuel your body, it opens up a lot of space to figure out that on your own. To me, ultimately, the ultimate is intuitive eating, meaning that you listen to what your body is asking for, what it actually wants, what it actually likes, letting that even change over time, that maybe in certain seasons it wants and likes specific things, and that as seasons change, the wants and likes of the body change. It's learning to listen to your hunger cues when you're actually hungry, or maybe when you're hungry for something other than food. I think that that's a major mismatch in our relationship to food, is that we feel hunger as food hungry, but in fact, sometimes we're just hungry for love. Sometimes we're hungry for rest. Sometimes we're hungry for emotional intimacy. There's a lot of different hungers that the body produces. And I think sometimes if we're not totally in tune with our bodies, it took me a long time to even start to discern and learn the hunger cues of my body and what they were actually asking for. And so if you're not in touch with that, then it feels like hunger all the time. And so you're kind of always reaching to feed your body physically, when actually maybe it's asking, maybe even just for water, but if nothing else, potentially there's an emotionality present, or something else that your body is hungry to give space to, that you have to kind of learn how to listen to. So I say all that to say, our bodies are always changing. Even our input and output are always changing. And so for me, what I have found after a long time of not doing this is just how to listen to my body, just how to honor the calls and the needs of my body. And what first needed to happen in order for me to even hear that conversation, that communication from my body, was to essentially kind of strip my body of everything, kind of an elimination diet. But I took it like super to the extreme, if you will, because what I did was, and this was all, again, very much just an intuitive path. This wasn't something I'm like, okay, my 5-year plan is that I'm going to do this, this, and this. In 2013, I felt this very strong inclination to go vegan, and I did. And it was absolutely amazing. I felt every benefit from going vegan. At the time, for me, it felt like a spiritual choice in many ways to kind of be sort of, I want to use the term celibate to animal products that I was just feeding off of a plant-based diet. It felt energetic. Somebody had told me at the time that if you eat animal products, that you're actually consuming the energy of the animal. And that was a major turn up to me, obviously, and especially at that time, because I was really active on purifying myself energetically during that period. So it made a lot of sense for me to like not take on any energetics from animals, if that is true, which at this point, I'm not even sure. I certainly didn't notice much of that. But it landed at the time. It was what I needed to kind of believe in so that I could really go hard on my veganism. I'm one person who I'm very loyal to the things that I commit to. Once I'm into something, I'm super loyal to it. So as soon as I kind of picked up the idea that I was going vegan, I was all in. And I did that. I did that for 8 years. I was vegan, and it totally served me. There were so many ways that I feel like it cleansed me and cleared me, and was sort of like a fundamental reset on every level. And it was so powerful. I highly recommend it as something that could potentially be even just a short-term commitment, aim, intention for you to purify whatever your intention behind it that would naturally come with your doing something like that. Do I think veganism is for everybody? No, I don't. Do I think you should be vegan forever your whole life? Like there, am I a strict, crazy vegan? I'm not. In fact, I'm actually not vegan anymore. So I was vegan for 8 years. In 2021 is when I moved to Texas. And at the time, I was already very much feeling my body kind of calling back in certain things like chicken, fish, and eggs specifically. And I had been denying the call for about a year because I was so loyal to being vegan, and I was already 8 years deep. It's a really hard thing to stop once you're in it, especially having been in it for so long. And like, how's my body going to respond? And am I like abandoning like this thing I've committed to? And that was my whole process around why I was not listening to my body as it was available to reintroducing specific things. So it took me a little while. It took me a little while to edge out of it. And though now I still eat, at this point, I eat about, I would say roughly 80-85% plant-based still. It just is still generally the preference of my body, although I'm obviously much less strict. So now the other 15-20% I do allow in, certain things. I'm still not very big on dairy, for example. It just doesn't really hit for me. I don't eat pork. I don't see myself reintroducing pork, but I remain open. I feel like what I do have now is a very clear communication and relationship to my body and what it's asking for and what it needs. And I know how to honor that without denying myself of something because my mind says that I'm loyal to a specific way of eating. To me, it's more important that I'm hearing my body, listening to my body, allowing it to reset when it needs to, and letting it decide what it wants. Because once you really cultivate that relationship to your body, it's very rare that your body's going to ask for like junk food. Maybe I honestly I don't get that call really ever. My junk food might be like a gluten-free, dairy-free pizza or something, which because I do eat gluten-free and I have since I was 15 because there's an actual sensitivity there. But other than that, it's like my body just has no urge for anything that doesn't feel nourishing anymore. I really don't have the call for that. And if I did, I would be open to it. I would listen to it, and it's not like I eat perfectly pure all the time. I certainly enjoy things like ice cream, and full transparency, like French fries are my favorite food, if I'm being really real. I eat well. I eat well and I nourish my body well. I also eat one meal a day for the most part. That's pretty unique to me. I know some people are on that path. Many are not. And again, even something like that, I wouldn't say like, everybody should try it. Everybody needs to do it, because I don't think that it's realistic for everybody. I don't think it fits into everybody's lifestyle. And especially if you're someone who say works out a lot and you need at least 2 meals, I don't think it's unrealistic to need more than 1 meal a day. For my body type and where I'm at right now with my workouts and my output, it fits, it works. So I usually, if I'm really in my rhythm, I'll usually eat my meal around 2 or 3. I try to get a heavy workout in after that. So then I'm fasting for the rest of the day after that. And then into the next morning, I'll introduce like cacao, as you guys have heard me say before, is my morning drink around 9 a.m. So I'm fasting from, 2 or 3 up until that point. My body absolutely loves that. When I'm really on that strictly and really kind of committed to that, that feels like the best flow for my body. I will have like snacks maybe between, but the actual like 1 meal that I'm having is sort of mid-afternoon, mid-afternoon. And then also, and partly because even the 1 meal a day is not realistic in all of the phases of life, right? Like if I'm being more social, you might actually have dinner at dinner time, which is not like bananas. So you learn how to like meet that need. So you might maybe have a little smaller meal earlier in the day because you're hungry, and naturally so. And then, so it switches up. And usually if I go through a phase where I've switched up some, then I'll do a little bit of a longer fast. So my longer fasts vary. If they really vary, sometimes right now, more realistically, it's maybe 2 days, maybe 3 days. usually what I try to do is I get myself over that fast hump. So if you have fasted before, you might know what I'm talking about when I say that. Usually for me, it's the first like maybe 48 hours that I kind of feel available to food still. My body's fighting the fast a little bit. It's kind of difficult, especially as the day goes on and nighttime comes. I usually try to go to bed nice and early on the days that I'm fasting, because it's easier for me to just like brush my teeth and go to bed and not think about it. So I'll do longer fasts. So maybe, you know, once I'm over the hump, which again, maybe is day 2, maybe sometimes day 3, where I feel like super amazing, then I'm just listening. You know, sometimes even by the time I feel super amazing, I feel then, okay, ready to reintroduce even just juices or food in some way. When I fast, it's just water for me. Sometimes I'll do like a little greens blend. AG1 is a new greens blend that I'm on. So I'll bring that in, but otherwise primarily just water, maybe a tea bag. But I have done much longer fast. Sometimes I get over the hump. I'm in day 3 and I'm like, I literally can't even imagine myself reintroducing food right now. I'm getting into day 4, day 5. I've gone up until day 7 where I still felt so good, but I do work out often. And granted, when I'm doing my longer fasts, I'll pull back on my workouts, but sometimes my body, at that point, my body was asking for a nice heavy workout, but I simply didn't have that kind of energy to work out like I normally do on the 7th day. So at that point is when I reintroduced food and workout. So I'm always adjusting. I'm always listening. I'm always allowing my body to determine and decide what it wants and what it's asking me for, and letting that change. At this point, I have no attachment to it myself on what I eat and what I'm needing. I do generally have, you know, a framework of what I know my body likes and what feels good and healthy for my body. And I have trained even my taste buds and my body to like what's good for it. You know, people always ask me like, oh, you can't, like, how do you go without X, Y, and Z, or the junk food or whatever? And I literally don't even like the taste of stuff that's not great for me anymore, to be honest. Again, I still like have my little things, but even the ice cream that I eat, you know, is dairy free, and maybe I try to do low sugar as much as I can. Like I have little cookies that I like, they're like gluten free and very low on sugar. So you learn how to listen to your body. And to me, that's the winning strategy, because the body knows what it needs. If your body is constantly asking for, you know, a Whopper, maybe sit with it because, you know, usually that means that where you're asking from is not like a healthy, like just one to be nourished place. If your body's asking for a Whopper, like maybe there's something else, some other part of you that's asking for the Whopper. I'm not against Whoppers. I don't eat them myself. But I did as a kid and I thought they were great then. So I'm, you know, not going to like knock if you slip in a Whopper every now and then. However, processed food in general, what I have found, again, in my own process, is it's not a hit for me anymore. My body's like, there's like no substance here for me. There's not like anything from the earth. It just feels like total, even cereal, unfortunately, because I used to love cereal so much. And more recently, like it's not a hit for me, because my body's like, this just tastes like processed nothingness. So that's been my journey, you know, and this may be triggering for some people, because I know there are some very strict vegans, and I totally respect and honor you if you're a strict vegan. You know, I've been told that I can't be spiritual because I'm not vegan anymore. Obviously, I disagree with that, because I did the vegan thing. And while I felt like it served me to clear my energy and to purify my relationship to the divine at that time, it didn't feel like it's what I needed to do forever. It simply didn't. And I'm also, again, someone who does work out heavily. I do yoga sculpt classes. If anybody is familiar with that, I go to Cork Power and do yoga sculpt classes, which is heated yoga with weights. So it's a heavy workout. That's my main workout is like 3 or 4 days a week. I'll try to catch a class, and sometimes maybe 1 or 2 days in the gym, just like maybe a cardio or something. So I work out a lot. I've been an athlete my whole life. I was a college athlete. So working out and staying, you know, present with my physical activity in that way is also important to me. So, and I did find at times in my vegan journey that I just didn't have the same type of energy for my workout like I like to have. So there were little hints of that along the way. But again, I absolutely loved being vegan. I was proud of it. It felt like something I was doing for the planet, for the people, for the animals, for myself, for spirit. Like there was many levels to it that really resonated with me. The other piece of it was that while I was vegan and while I was kind of what I consider now resetting myself physically, I had a flare up of like a little skin condition that I've experienced over my life. And I could tell it was flaring up because it was ready to be healed and because I had alkalined my body so that it was available to the healing. So as soon as that happened, I went actually raw vegan, which I did for like 6 months, which if you know raw vegan, it's difficult. Literally raw vegetables essentially is what you're eating. It's not easy. But it was very empowering, and it absolutely, as far as I can tell, totally healed this condition that I've dealt with my whole life. So it was almost as if my body first needed the alkaline environment, the kind of pure plant-based container, to then bring forward this issue that I dealt with, and then for me to really address it with raw veganism, among other herbs that were coming through intuitively at the time to clear that out. And then it was gone completely, and I haven't dealt with it at all since then. So, I do think resetting your body in whatever way that works for you, be it fasting or maybe a plant-based diet for some time or forever. I mean, if you're a vegan and you're a hardcore vegan, and that's where you're at, by all means, that's great. I know plenty even of bodybuilders and people who work out heavily that are full vegan. And it's like, I have absolutely nothing against that. My whole thing is everybody is different. Everybody is different. And so if you're vegan, but you're don't have the energy and you don't feel like you're your full self, and you don't feel like you're thinking totally as clearly as you possibly can all the time, maybe you want to look at that. I don't think that one thing is going to fit every single body. And so what I encourage you to do, and maybe if you've hopefully taken this out of this video, is to start to practice your communication, your relationship to your body. Listen to when you're hungry, listen to when you're full. If you're finding that you don't feel full, start to notice that. And for me, if there are any times where I'm not feeling fullness, then usually I'll fast, because that'll sort of reset my tummy. And then pretty quickly, as soon as I reintroduce food, I'm actually full more quickly, because your stomach, I think, shrinks a little bit when you fast. So use fasting as a reset if that resonates with you. Fasting is one thing that I am a huge advocate for. If you follow my work at all, you've probably heard me talk about fasting a lot. It really majorly resets you in every way. I've heard some pretty miraculous stories about fasting and what it has healed. In fact, one of my good friends, his mom healed herself from diabetes just by fasting. And I 100% believe it. And I know it's real and it's true, because there's many of these types of stories. In fact, if you follow Dr. Sebi's work at all, he was a major advocate for fasting and healed many things, a whole list of things from fasting, through his clients and himself. So something to think about. If you're wondering which path to take on your relationship to food, start with yourself. Start sitting with yourself. Start really committing to actively listening to your body, actively discerning what it's actually asking for, what it likes or what it doesn't like. Notice how the subtle ways that your body responds to certain things. Maybe cut things out if you have kind of an intuition that your body isn't loving it. Just try that. Start there. But the key is to get into that flow where you are hardly even thinking about it. You're just sort of moving intuitively, energetically, according to what your body is asking for on any given day. It might be different every day. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because our body is changing every single day. The way that we exist through our input and output is changing oftentimes. And so it's not wrong to do one thing today and one thing tomorrow, or as seasons change, or as life changes, or your environments change, whatever it is. But you have to have a very tight relationship to your body to even be able to hear its communication, to honor it, and then maybe not always only eat off of taste, right? Like, people can't believe when I say that I don't always just eat because something tastes good. And again, I've also, though, fine-tuned my taste so that I love what feels good to my body. That to me tastes so good. I can tell when it's just going to nourish and feed my body. I'm going to feel so good. I'm feeding my future self every time I eat, ideally. So that's been my path. Really curious to hear your reactions of this. If you're a vegan and you're pissed at me, I get it. It's okay. I still respect and honor you completely. But again, I would just challenge by saying, let's hold space for everybody to exist and how they exist without there needing to be one rigid way of doing something, especially something like feeding and fueling your body, because all of our bodies are completely different, and that's intentional. That's the diversity in humanity is what makes humanity so rich and so special, and that the uniqueness of each individual person, that there's never been a you before and will never be a you again, is so amazing and such a miracle. And so I feel like we should honor that in all of the ways that we exist. We should honor ourselves in all of the ways that we exist. Let ourselves be unique in every capacity. And your relationship to food, I think, would be one of those. So that's what I got for you today. Let me know what you think. Please do like, comment, subscribe, and just, let me know where you're at. Let me know your path, if any of this lands, or if I can help you further with my journey. I'm not an expert, obviously. I'm just one who's been on the path. So love you guys. See you next time.